Hello, my first graders. This is going to be our last phonics video together. And I am so sad that school is almost over and that we have not been able to see each other for so long. But you know what? God has a plan, and God is not surprised by all of this, and God has all of this under control. So I want you to remember that, even though we can't be together, that God is watching you, God hears you, God loves you, and He has it all under control. So let's talk about our last few things in our phonics before summer is officially here. So we're going to talk about some things that you did last week and review that, and then I want to talk about some new things because I want to make sure you know all this phonics before you go to second grade, because you're going to be second graders next year. So the first thing I want to talk about is synonyms. It's a funny word. Can you say synonyms? And this is how I remember synonyms. Synonym starts with an S, and a synonym is a word that has the same meaning. They're different words. Different words can have the same meaning. So in my brain, I remember synonym, same. They both start with the letter S. And they are words that have the same meaning. And some of these were on your phonics pages last week. And some of these you already know. I think we've talked about it before earlier in the year, so this is just a quick review. Like the word big, a synonym for the word big is huge. If I say it's a big snow cone, if I said a huge snow cone, that would mean the same thing. Huge and big mean the same thing. Tiny, small. Those words are synonyms. It means the same thing. Sick or ill. If you hear someone say, oh, he's been very ill, that means he's been sick. Those are synonyms. Synonyms are words that mean the same. So you saw some of these on your phonics pages last week. So remember, synonym, the same meaning, and they both start with S. Another thing that you saw last week was adding suffixes to words. Now, suffix, that's a funny word, and we're going to talk more about those later on in our video. But a suffix is a special ending of a base word. Now, base word just means the word we start with, and then we can add a suffix. Now, a suffix can be one letter or it could be a group of letters, and we've already been doing this year. These are our bossy, our sneaky alley cats. Remember, alley cat ED and alley cat ING and ER. There's all kinds of suffixes, but there's a certain rule that we have to follow. Now remember, if it's a short vowel sound, remember Uncle Short has to jump in and he adds that double consonant before we can add our suffix. So let's look at some of these. Here's my word stop. Now stop has the short O, ah sound. Now before I add a suffix like ed, like in the word stopped, or before I write the word stopping, that's the suffix ing. Remember, Uncle Short has to jump in, and remember, there's that double P. So if it's a short vowel sound, Uncle Short's gonna jump in before we can add our suffix ed or ing. So stop is the word we start with. That's called our base word. And then Uncle Short comes in, he adds that double consonant, and then we can add our suffix ed and ing. And remember, we say stopped, stopping. Look at drag, dragged. He dragged the bone across the carpet. Or dragging. We have to listen for the vowel sound. If it's a short vowel sound, Uncle Short jumps in and he doubles that consonant. Now it's different if it's a long vowel sound. Now remember Miss Long and silent marker E. Silent marker E does not like those creepy alley cats. And we talked about this before. Remember? Silent E does not like it, and so he sees those alley creepy cats coming and he gets out of the way. And so if it's a long vowel sound, like in the word bike, Here we have I, and then we have silent E. So we know that that's Miss Long and silent E. But if I want to make the word biked, before alley cat ED or alley cat ING comes, whoo, silent E gets out of the way. So we do not double anything. We just add ED, biked. Now for biking, the silent E goes completely away. We don't see any E at all. And we simply add the ING suffix. So if it's a long vowel sound, the rule is a little bit different. Remember, silent E, he gets out of the way. Look at the word bake. Bake has the long A sound. Now if I want to say I baked cookies last week, remember, silent E gets out of the way, I just add the ED. Baking. Ooh, we don't even see silent E. He gets out of the way. He doesn't like the creepy alley cat ING. So he's taken away, he gets out of the way, and then we add the ING for baking. So those are those rules for adding those special suffixes. We have to listen to the vowel sound. Now something else that was on your phonics pages last week is something we use in writing called prepositions. Now remember, we are trying to make our sentences bigger and longer. When you get to second grade, we don't want those baby sentences anymore. We want to use more words, more parts of speech to make our sentences bigger and longer because we want to sound like good writers. And so something you can use in your sentences is something called prepositions. That's a big word. Say prepositions. Now prepositions tell us where things are happening in our sentence, where people are going or where things are in your sentence. Now some of the prepositions, and there's a bunch of prepositions, when you get to like 4th grade, maybe even 3rd grade, 3rd or 4th grade, you're gonna have to memorize a big list of prepositions. And they're just good to know, and they're quick to recognize in a sentence. Now prepositions tell us where. Now some of them are in, on, by, under, through, above, below, beside, between. They tell us where things happen in a sentence. Look at some examples I have on the back of this page. I sat on the rug. It tells me where I sat. Where did I sit? Oh, I sat on the rug. On the rug. We call that a prepositional phrase. It tells me where I sat exactly. So that word on is a preposition. Look at this next sentence. The park is by my house. Well, where's the park? Which park are you talking about? Oh, it's the one by my house. By my house, that's a prepositional phrase, and by is a preposition telling me where the park is. Look at the next sentence. Put the trash in the garbage can. Where? Where should I put the trash? Put it in the garbage can. In the garbage can is a prepositional phrase. In is a preposition. Prepositions tell us where things happen in our sentence, or where we should put things, or where do we go. Prepositions are fun and easy to recognize. Something else that you saw this last week were pronouns. Now pronouns take the place of a noun. Okay, let's rewind. What's a noun? A noun is a person, place, thing, animal, and sometimes it's an idea. So pronouns take the place of those nouns. And pronouns are very important in our writing. And I'm going to show you some examples of how to substitute a pronoun for a noun in a sentence. Now some very common pronouns are I, he, she, we, and they. Now these particular pronouns can be the subject of the sentence. Remember, a sentence has two parts. It has a subject part, the naming part, and the telling part, which is like the verb, the action. So these particular pronouns can be a subject in the sentence. Let's look at some examples. On the back, let's look at this sentence. The boy ran fast. Now the naming part, the subject part of my sentence is the boy. So let's think back about those pronouns that we just read. What pronoun could we use to substitute? Instead of saying the boy, What pronoun could we use? I, he, she, we, they. Which one would make sense to you? If you said he, you're right. He would be a good substitution. We could say he ran fast, and then he would be the subject part of our sentence. Bob and Sally are friends. Now I underlined Bob and Sally. They are the subject of our sentence, but let's think. What pronoun could we use to substitute for Bob and Sally? I don't want to say Bob and Sally. What could I use instead? What pronoun? Let's look at our list. If you said they, you're right. They are friends. They would be a pronoun that you could substitute. And they would be the subject of your sentence, the naming part. Remember, the naming part tells us who our sentence is about. Look at the last one. Our class won the game. Now, class is the subject part, the naming part of our sentence. That's who it's about. Now let's think, what pronoun could we use to substitute for that? Let's look back at our list. I, he, she, we, they. Now you could say they, but if it's talking about our class, let's pretend it's all of us at field day, I think we would make sense. We could say, we won the game. And that would be a perfect substitution. So pronouns take the place of nouns. They're easily substituted. If you don't want to say someone's name, you can say he, or they, or we, or she. And those pronouns can be used as the subject, the naming part of a sentence. Now lastly, this is from last week. Remember, I'm reviewing last week. And then I'm going to talk about some new things for the coming weeks. The last thing I want to talk about is how to use a punctuation mark known as the comma. Now we've talked about commas before, how when we write the date, like today is May 7th, 2020, we've talked about how to use a comma after that number in the date. We've also talked about when we write a letter, how to use commas. But then there's one more way I want to show you when we write. Now in your sentence, if you're writing a sentence and you list a bunch of nouns in a sentence, guess what? They can't all be mumbo jumbo together. We need to separate them. And the way we separate nouns in a sentence is by using commas. Now let me show you an example. I used some people from our class. EJ, Jude, and Jade said scripture. Now let's think about all the nouns in that sentence. EJ's a person, Jude's a person, Jade's a person. I have 3 nouns at the very beginning. And I can't just leave them mumbo jumbo together because that might sound weird. So I use a comma to separate them. EJ, comma, Jude, comma, and Jade said scripture. That's how you should separate nouns in your sentences. Now let's look at the next one. Pizza, hamburgers, and tacos are my favorite foods. Now boys and girls, if I did not put a comma in this sentence, it would sound like pizza hamburgers are one thing. Well, I've never had a pizza hamburger. That's kind of weird. I'm talking about something totally different. So guess what I need? I need a comma to separate what I'm talking about. I need a comma to separate these nouns. So I'm going to take my orange marker and I need a comma after pizza and a comma after hamburgers. Pizza, comma, hamburgers, comma, and tacos are my favorite foods, because I'm not talking about something called a pizza hamburger. I'm talking about different things. So if you're talking about different nouns, if you're using different nouns, you have to separate them with commas. Let's look at the back. Dogs, cats, and bunnies are cute pets. Well, I don't have any commas in this sentence. So it sounds like I'm saying dogs, cats. What's a dog's, cats? That's weird. I need to separate it with commas. So So let's add my commas. I need a comma after dogs and a comma after cats. Dogs, comma, cats, comma, and bunnies are cute pets. That's much better because there's no such thing as dogs, cats. That's weird. I need to separate it. Let's look at the last one. Soccer, baseball, and swimming are fun sports. Now, I don't see any commas here. So have you ever heard of soccer, baseball? Is that a sport? Soccer, baseball? No, that's not a real sport. I'm talking about different sports. So if I'm talking about different things in a series, I've got to separate it with a comma. Soccer, let's add our comma, baseball, comma, and swimming are fun sports. I've got to add that comma to separate items in a series, or it would just sound weird. People would think I'll be talking about soccer, baseball, and they'd say, what's soccer, baseball? What are you talking about? And you didn't mean that. You meant to say soccer, baseball, and they're separated. We got to separate them with commas. Now lastly, what you're going to work on this week, and then we're wrapping up Unit 5. So you're going to finish that whole unit, and we're going to be done with Unit 5, and that'll be the end of phonics for first grade. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. The last thing you're going to read about and work on this week are suffixes and prefixes. Now those are fancy words, and I've talked about them earlier. We've talked about suffixes before, that's hard to say, because of our alley cats, ed and ing and er and est. We've worked on those creepy alley cats before. But then we're going to talk about something called a prefix. So we're going to talk about suffixes and prefixes. Now, a suffix, we've talked about this already, is it can be one letter, it can be a group of letters at the end of a base word. Now, when I say base word, that just means the word we start with. Like, let's look at the first one, swinging. If I cover up the ing, I just started with the word swing, and then I added the suffix ing, swinging. Walked. Walk is my base word, and then we added that suffix, the alley cat ed, walked. Quickly. Quick is the word I started with, but when I add ly, the ly is a suffix. It makes the word quickly. So a suffix is added at the end of a word. And have you noticed that when I add that suffix, it adds another syllable? Swimming, 2 syllables. Quickly, 2 syllables. Now a prefix is different. Prefix is added at the beginning of the word, and there are several different prefixes that I want to talk about. Let's look at some of these. The first one I have is unhappy. Now let's think about what's the opposite of happy? If I'm not happy, then I must be sad. Well, another way of saying that is I'm unhappy. Un is a prefix. And it just means not. I'm not happy. Untrue. It just means it's not true. So un, if it's at the beginning of the word, that's a prefix. And it's right before it. It goes right before it. Another prefix is the letter a, or the word a, like in the word asleep or alive. The word a just means to be. Asleep means to be sleeping. Alive means to be alive. So a is a prefix. It comes before. Now some other ones that you may be familiar with is re, like in the word rewind. Now re just means, like if I say, can you rewind that video? I want to watch it again. That means you're just going to begin again. You're going to go back and do it again. Or the word redo. Have you ever heard me say, like when you're doing your handwriting, or your parents have been helping you with your handwriting and they say, oh, you got to redo it. That just means that you have to do it again. And there's the base words. Do you see the base words that I've underlined? Wind is the base word. Do is the base word. And then the prefix is just added at the beginning. There's one more prefix I want to talk about, and that's be, be. Like in the word below or belong. Those words are prefixes. And just like with a suffix, it adds another syllable. If I say unhappy, that has 3 syllables. Untrue, 2 syllables. Asleep, 2 syllables. So a prefix and a suffix will add another syllable to your words. And I think on your phonics pages, you're going to draw that dot. And remember how we clap out the syllables. And remember, a syllable is just a part of the word and how we say it. All right, boys and girls, I want you to work really hard. This is your last week to do phonics pages. I hope you'll keep practicing this summer some and keep working and writing sentences and doing some work to get you ready for 2nd grade. I love you. I miss you so, so much. And remember, God's in control of everything. And He sees you and He hears you. And He's got this. He has the coronavirus under control. And there is nothing that surprises God, because He is sovereign and He is in control. I love you so much. I hope I get to see you soon. Bye-bye.